So this video is about how to use crayon and colored pencil in a better way for your art contest designs. So I colored in my tree with a regular green, and I'm using circular motions so that it looks more like the texture of a tree would have. Normally when you color sideways, it creates sometimes lines that maybe you don't want. So I have some green, then I'm gonna choose a different kind of green, and right now I'm just doing more circular motion so it looks more leafy. And I'm just choosing areas where, you know, you create shadows. Usually trees are bushy. So I have a lighter green now, and I'm going over, notice I'm slanting my crayon sideways. It kind of blends a little better. I'm going over my dark green, and it's blending it in a little nicer. Now I'm going to get a yellow green, and I'm gonna fill it in wherever I left off. And I'm also overlapping. That means I'm covering on top of my other crayon. So you're slowly starting to get a nice blend of color. So I'm going over my other colors, and I'm coloring with medium effort. That means I'm not putting too much force into my paper, but I'm also making sure I'm not coloring too light, because it doesn't create bright, vibrant coloring. So there's my blending. You'll see 3 different colors, and it looks a little bit more interesting. I might want to go back. You could even use colored pencil for it, maybe to create some shadows. Usually you'll have shadows, and it depends how realistic you want to get. So this is where I kind of blend my colored pencil and my crayons. So you can also draw details with your colored pencil. So this is a black colored pencil. And maybe I don't like that as much, so you can go back and put your regular green and cover that up or blend it in, so it looks a little bit more shadowy. So that's just one way. And the other thing I wanted to mention is when you don't just assume that because it's a trunk it's going to be just regular brown. So this is a regular brown. I'm going to use a little bit very, very light brown, so not a lot of pressure. So this is regular brown. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of orange. So orange is kind of similar to brown. This is just making it a little bit more interesting. So it's got a little bit of orange, and then I'm going to grab my peach. Peach is a good color to blend in almost anything. So I'm kind of going circular, and you'll notice for the tree I do want a little bit of lines because it looks like more like bark. So if you look up close, you'll see a little bit more color variation, and that's what makes usually art a little bit more interesting. So we want to blend more colors in between. Okay, so that's using crayon. And then with colored pencils, usually you want to use these for finer details, but let's do the grass now for colored pencils. So basically the same. You'll notice here on my grass I'm going not circular but with lines, so it depends what you're coloring. So I'm making lines so that it goes with my grass texture. And then again, I just don't want regular green because it's boring, so I'm going to come back and maybe use a light lime green and put it on top. Usually I like to use 3 kinds of colors, a dark, a medium, and a light color. It creates the illusion of shadows and highlights. So I have my medium green, my light green, and I might go back with my colored pencil, my black one, to create a few other shadows. So this will be the dark areas where the sun doesn't hit in the grass. So now I have 3 variations of color in my grass, and that might be more interesting. You can also go back and blend in with waxy crayons. And that's it. For your background, I suggest, if you want to color, I suggest you guys use crayons. they're a little bit easier to blend and they make colors more even. So I have 3 choices of blue here. I'm just gonna try them out. When you do big areas that are gonna be colored in, you wanna do light, so you don't want too dark. If you want it darker and darker, then you slowly put a little more pressure. So here's me coloring this, and probably don't want that dark blue, so I'm gonna blend it in with this more aqua blue. So I actually like this kind of blending. So notice I'm kind of going in oval motions, not lines, because you don't want I don't want lines on my sky. So I'm actually blending 2 blues. I feel it's more natural, and I'm almost like holding my crayon sideways with the paper. So it just creates more area, and it makes it easier to not make lines that you don't want. So you'll notice the nice blue being created. And make sure if you're doing a sky or a lot of shape that you use a clipboard or maybe a notebook under your paper, because whatever you're coloring, you're gonna get the background. So there's a line right here. I was starting to get a little bit of a line. If you color on top of the tables, of the art tables, you're gonna get the texture of the tables on your design. So that's it. For big areas, please use crayons. For smaller details, you can blend in pencil and crayon, and you know, mix it up. Don't just use, like, if I'm gonna do this red, needs sharpener. Let's say I'm gonna do this purple. I just don't want to use purple. Maybe blend in some other colors to make it interesting. So I might mix a blue and purple here, so that it creates more color variety. So those are the 3 main points. Mix up your colors. Use your sideways slanting so that it and use circular motions. Overlap colors, and try to use at least 3 different variations of a color. Here I used 2, and that's enough for my sky. And that's it. So happy coloring.